Best Life 30, your 30-day journey to creating the best life possible for yourself. You can just watch this video, or if you want to sign up for the entire series for free and get the companion bonus worksheets that go with this video, check the link in the description below. All right, so today is day 25, and we're going to learn how you can learn the skill of persuasion.
Warren Buffett was doing the speech with Bill Gates about maybe 10 years ago, and he was asked by a college student, what can we do as students to make ourselves more valuable in the workplace? So you'd think Warren Buffett would say, learn how to pick stocks, learn how to investments, whatever he would say, right? Not what he says. He says, go out and take a course in sales and communication.
Yeah, he did. Dale Carnegie changed his life.
There you go. And that was the point. Because he took that. He says, I took Dale Carnegie, changed without that. You know what he'd be without that course?
Yeah.
He'd be the richest money manager in Omaha, Nebraska that no one ever heard of.
Yeah, and he met his wife that way, the love of his life.
Because without the ability to influence and persuade, you can't put yourself out there into the world and be known for what you really are.
I believe that leadership is really a skill of influence. It is the most important skill that any human being can master. And I don't think of leadership as a position. I see it as a skill, a tool that all of us have to have. In other words, the quality of your life, I really believe, comes down to your level of leadership. Other people don't have to follow you to be a leader, but you have to live life on your terms. And the first person you have to influence is yourself. Whether you're fit or fat, whether your kids are on drugs or not, it's who has more influence, the guy on the street corner or you. Whether you're fit or fat is, can you influence your own hands, your own body, your own mind to do what's necessary? So I think to be able to influence the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the actions of another human being, that's what leadership is. I really believe in order to influence people, you got to know what already influences them. Mm-hmm. The mistake that we make is we don't connect enough to figure out who this person is, and what most of us do is try to lead other people by influencing them the way we'd be influenced. Mm-hmm. They try to influence their kid to clean the room the way that would make you do it. But even though they're your kid, they're different than you. And so they're going to do it for a different set of reasons than what you would do it for. You might have done it because someone told you to, but your kid's going to tell them all day long, that's not it. There has to be something else. It's a sense of freedom they get from it, or a sense of mastery, something that's going to move them. So I always say there are two things that influence everyone. If you want to be a leader, you have to know how to change other people's states. A person is in a no state, a person's in an angry state, a person's in a frustrated state. You have to be able to influence their state, because if you change their state, you're going to change the result they get. But the second thing you have to understand is, what are people's blueprints? Blueprints, my shorthand for what are their values? What do they believe? What do they fear? I always say to people that life is found in the dance between what you desire most and what you fear most. If I want to lead you and support you, I got to know your goals, your desires. I got to know what you're scared about, what you're fearful about, what stresses you out. And if I understand that, I can communicate in a way that'll inspire you to maximize, not only when I'm here, that's management. Leadership is I'm gone, and you've raised your own standard, and you're going to continue to perform at a higher level.
I'm incredibly nervous to talk in front of you, because you've got to be one of the most formidable people that I've ever heard of, or ever listened to, or ever seen. So my question is, again, you're one of the best communicators that I've ever listened to. If I could be half as good at you, or at communicating as you are, I would be set. How can I teach myself to do that?
Practice. Really, there's a couple of things. It helps to read a lot. It really helps to write. So if you want to make yourself articulate, which is a very good idea, then not only should you read, but you should write down what you think. And if you can do that a little bit every day, 15 minutes, maybe you could steal 15 minutes and do it every day. But if you do that for 10 years, you really straighten out your thinking. If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about, so this is often difficult for beginning lecturers at university, because they'll do a lecture on a topic, but they only know as much as they're saying in the lecture, and they get kind of stuck to their notes because of it. But you want to know 10 times as much as you are saying in the lecture, and then you can specify a stepping path through it and elaborate with the other things that you know. But to do that, you have to do a lot of reading. But you also have to do a lot of reading, because that's where the synthesizing comes. So that's on the input side. And then on the output side, well, there's some techniques, let's say. Is like if you're speaking in front of a group, You are not delivering a talk to a group. That's not what you're doing. The talk isn't a packaged thing that you present to a group. There isn't a group. There's a bunch of individuals, and you talk to them. So when I talk to a group, I always talk to people one at a time. And that makes it easier too, because you know how to talk to a person. It's like, can you talk to 1,000 people? Well, probably not, because it's too intimidating. But there isn't 1,000 people there. There's 1,000 individuals. And so you just look at an individual and you say something, and you can tell if they're engaged. They look confused, or they look interested, or they look angry, or they look bored, or maybe they're asleep, in which case you look at someone else. And they give you feedback about how you're doing. And so one thing is to have something to say, yeah, but the next thing is pay attention to who you're talking to. Because unless you're very badly socialized, and that seems unlikely in your case, because you present yourself at least moderately well, and well, I mean, I don't know you very well, but on first sight, you're doing fine. So the probability that if you pay attention to the individuals that you're talking to, that your natural wealth of social skill will manifest itself is extremely high. And so you don't deliver a talk to an audience. That's a really bad way of thinking about it. You're actually engaged in a conversation with an audience. Even if they're not talking, they're nodding and shifting position and looking like this, and you can pull all that in and use it to govern the level at which you're addressing the entire audience. So the last thing I would say is, well, having the aim to be a good communicator is a good start. And you think, well, I could buttress that to some degree. Well, there isn't anything that you can possibly, this is the whole point of a liberal education, there isn't anything that you can possibly do that makes you more competent in everything you do than to learn how to communicate. I don't care if you're going to be a carpenter. I mean, being a carpenter, by the way, is very difficult, especially if you're a good carpenter. But if you're good at communicating as a carpenter, you're like 10 times better as a carpenter. So, and this is something that the liberal arts colleges, I think, I don't know if they've forgotten it, but they don't do a very good job of marketing. It's like, well, what's the use of a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts? It's like, well, you can think, you can write, you can speak, you've read something. It's like, the economic value of that is incalculable. The people that I've watched in my life who've been spectacularly successful they have skills. Clearly, that's a minimum precondition. But they're also very, very good at articulating themselves. And so whenever they negotiate, they're successful. Well, that's kind of like the definition of success in life, right? You negotiate and you're successful. It doesn't mean you win. Because if you're a good negotiator, if you're a really good negotiator, everybody walks away from the negotiation thrilled. And so then people line up to do things with you. So, and that's all dependent on your ability to communicate. So practice.
Persuasion in anything. So if you want to persuade your children, if you want to persuade someone to take a look at your faith, if you want to persuade someone in business, if you want to persuade someone to help you in anything or help them in anything, it's real simple for me. Monster belief. And so you can't transfer to me that which you're not experiencing yourself, right? So you can't give me that. People are always trying to come up with a magic word, the magic close, the magic this. And there are words you should and shouldn't use in persuasion, no question about it, right? There are words that are more effective than other words. And clearly, to be successful in any business, you need to know what those words are in your business. But the best persuaders, the best motivators, the best speakers, the best physicians, the best school teachers, the best parents are incredible persuaders. And what they do is they come from a monster place of conviction and belief that they can transfer you to, because people respond to energy much more than they do words. They respond to what they feel, not what they hear and see. Hear and see are real low-level influencers. Energy, spirit, transfer of energy is what people respond to. And so I'm cognizant all the time of getting in a state of total belief and certainty about what it is that I'm going to represent or speak on, if I'm speaking on stage about a particular topic, and then transferring that energy into people. And that seems generic or hokey, but it's actually what great persuaders do. In fact, if you're listening to this, you think of anybody that you know who's incredibly persuasive, They may have great words, they probably do, but it's something you feel from them, right? And that's the difference between a great doctor and a so-so doctor. Great doctor says, here's the prescription, you're out of here. Another one,
is this going to work or not? I don't know.
Another one, you leave there feeling that you're going to be healed, feeling you're in good hands. You feel their certainty, you feel their confidence. Same when you hear a speaker, if you're buying real estate from somebody. But it's not just buying things, it's a great pastor in a church. A great person if you do TM, who's taught you TM. It's their certainty. It's the energy you feel. And so for me, it's always getting to, I have to really believe what I'm saying. I have to really feel it to transfer it to.
And communication skills come in many forms. I'm talking about writing their email or writing their social media post or conducting their meeting or speaking one-on-one, speaking on the phone, talking with a prospect, or even speaking to large groups of people. All those falls under communication skills. One of the things that I did that changed my life early on in my career is I joined Toastmasters to hone and develop my public speaking skills. I was also learning from a mentor to develop my copywriting skill, which is communication in the written forms. How to use words in print to persuade, influence somebody. So all successful people, they have this one thing in common, the ability to influence, persuade, and inspire other people. I believe the easiest way to influence somebody, not to convince them, not try to twist their arm, but the easiest way to influence somebody, to persuade somebody, is by asking them questions. By asking them questions. So when you know that the idea is wrong, instead of telling people, hey, you're wrong, this is no good, no one likes to hear that they are wrong. Even though they are wrong, they don't want to hear that shit. It's much better to ask them question. Hey, you know what? Yeah, it's okay, we can go with this plan, but have you ever thought about this? What are the consequences if this doesn't work out? Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a plan B, right? And this maybe it's going to work, but what's the downside of this, right? And can we live with the downside? When you throw it out there and you make it their idea, because one thing I've learned in persuasion is this: when you say something, it means one thing. When they say something, it means everything. So instead of you saying it, make them say it. Make them think about it. Make them question it. Make them doubt their own ideas versus you try to doubt their ideas. And also, when you are communicating, when you're asking questions, you need to ask with certainty. In this world, in this uncertain world, what we do is we sell certainty in an uncertain world. That's what we do as closers, as entrepreneurs, right? As influencers. Understand human beings. We tune into the radio frequency called WIIFM, and that is what's in it for me. We are sometimes very selfish, unfortunately. We're thinking about, why should I pay attention to this? Why does it even matter? What's in it for me? Why should I even give you the time? So when you say the word you, it automatically communicates, hey, this is something for you. Pay attention. Imagine you are walking down the street and you hear someone yells, hey, you! You're like, oh, is that me? Is that me? That's the power of that word. So in your messaging, in your marketing, or even when you're selling one-on-one, are you using a lot of you, or are you using a lot of I or me or our company? Use a lot more you than I. You'll automatically be more persuasive.
Let's talk today about negotiation tactics. One of the most powerful of all is called persuasion by reciprocation. Now, this is based on what is called the law of reciprocity. It's considered by many to be the most powerful law of human nature. And what it says is this: if you do something nice for me, I'll do something nice for you. I feel obligated to reciprocate. For example, if we go out to lunch together and I say, I'll pick up the lunch, you almost always say that I will pay for it next time. And next time you insist on paying for the lunch. Now, there's several different types of reciprocation. There's, of course, emotional reciprocation, where you make people feel good. You say, thank you, it's a pleasure to meet you, I know how busy you are, thank you very much for your time, or this is a beautiful company, or it's a great opportunity for me to speak to you. Whenever you say anything that causes people to feel better about themselves, they have a deep unconscious need to reciprocate. There's another type of reciprocation which is called material or financial reciprocation. When you do something physical for someone, for example, you help someone load their car. They want to help you load their car. You lend people money or your lawnmower. They want to pay you back by reciprocating in some way. We always like to do things for others because we have, according to psychologists, this deep need to be even. So if you do something for me, the only way that I can get even is by doing something for you. By the way, the reverse is also true. If you do something that hurts me, then I feel a deep need to get even as well, so be careful. So the starting point of reciprocation is look for opportunities to do things for others. Something as simple as bringing a cutout from a newspaper that may be of interest to a prospect. Something as simple as giving a person a book or something like that. Something as simple as opening the door or getting a cup of coffee is a very powerful technique to cause people to like you and to feel obligated to you.
How do I add more value so that I can get paid more, so that I can have more influence, so that I can make more of a difference where I'm at? You always hear it all the time, right? Add more value. Well, how? How do you add more value so you can get paid more and have more influence? Part of adding value is helping people reconnect with some emotional side of their lives, right? I know that sounds so simple in some ways, but also philosophical. That a lot of what we experience today in this world is just so cheap and so commoditized and so technically driven that it's our job, if we want to add a lot of value, to bring back in humanity, to bring back in the emotion, to bring back in the color, the flair, the joy, the vibrancy, the real hues of human emotion that are often missing from everything. If you bring that back into everything that you're contributing, you'll go to a level of adding value that most people will never understand. And people won't just follow you because you're the person who asks the best questions. People won't just follow you because you're the person who knows the most people. People will follow you because you're an inspirer and you're a leader, because they can see within you that you have true energy, true engagement, true human emotion with everything that you're contributing. And because of that, they know that you're somebody they want to follow.
The number one way to influence another human being is actually by your example. I mean, we are tribal. We used to travel in herds. We are profoundly influenced by the social networks we are around. And so if you want to influence and elevate and uplift people around you, start with you. Start with your example.
I love Aesop's fables. And so I'm going to tell the story of one of the most famous and I think most useful of Aesop's fables. So this is the fable of the wind and the sun. So the wind and the sun were having an argument about who was the more powerful. And they decided that they would settle it with a bet. And what they bet was that they spotted a traveler on a road and they said who would be able to get the cloak away from that traveler. And whoever did was the stronger. So the wind went first, and the wind turned on his mighty force and blew icy wind at the traveler and almost blew the cloak right off of the traveler's shoulders. But the traveler was, felt the wind, felt the cold, and so gripped the cloak so tightly that eventually the wind had to give up and say that he couldn't get the cloak away from the traveler. So then it was the sun's turn, and the sun shone down on the traveler like these beaming rays, and as the traveler walked along, he loosened his grip, and eventually he became so hot that he ripped the cloak off and threw it on the ground, and the sun won. And so the moral of the fable is that persuasion is more powerful than force.
In Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, he says, a well-known principle of human behavior says that when we ask someone to do a favor, we will be more successful if we provide a reason. Here's an example from that book. Listen to this. A woman was standing in line for a copy machine, and she said, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I go ahead of you and make my copies?" 60% of people said yes. Now listen to this. She tried asking a slightly different way. She gave a reason why. This time she said, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the copy machine because I'm in a rush?" And this time, 94% of the people said yes. That's 1.5 times as many. That is a lot of persuasion. Now, there's more to that study, and you can check it out in Cialdini's book. But the point here is that when you give people a reason why you're asking for something, they're more inclined to give it to you.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the best Live 30 questions of the day. It's not enough to just watch a video, you have to do something about it, so pull out your worksheets and answer these questions, and if you don't have the worksheets yet, get them for free by checking the link in the description below. Here we go. Question number 1, what persuasion skills will you work on this week? Number 2, how can you add more value to the people in your life? And number 3, where do you need to lead more by example? And if you're doing the Best Live 30 challenge with me, put a hashtag BestLive30 in the comments below. We want to celebrate you. So listen, as an entrepreneur, if you do not know how to influence and persuade, your company is done. This is a challenge for so many entrepreneurs. You have a great mission. You have a great message. You're trying to do things for the right reason. You're not just trying to make money. Make money is important, but it's not number one. There's something else that you're trying to accomplish. But because you don't know how to influence and persuade people, you can't get customers, you can't get suppliers, you can't get people to join your team, you can't get media coverage, you can't get the traction that you need because you cannot do this thing all alone. It's impossible to do any business all alone. Even if you're the only person in your company, you still need to sell to people, right? You still need the ability to be able to influence and persuade. And I love that. More than I love the term selling. I think people often associate selling with something negative, which it can be. It has a slimy connotation sometimes for some people, but the ability to influence and persuade. It doesn't mean you're pushing people to do something that is against their own best interests. It's the exact opposite. I mean, you can use influence and persuade to hurt people. I want you to use it for the positive. What I do all day long is just see people and their genius level talent. I see you as being Michael Jordan level talent at whatever it is you want to do. You have that ability. And my entire goal is to move you from where you are right now with these limitations and this belief system to playing up here, to playing a bigger game. It's why I make these videos.